Gauteng Finance MEC Nomantu Nkomo-Ralehoko will today table the 2022-23 budget in the provincial legislature. The MEC speech is expected to address many issues, including those around job creation, housing, health and developments in the education sector. It is also expected to outline plans to improve the province's infrastructure. For a sense of what to expect, let's bring in our reporter, Kopano Gumbi, our business reporter that is, who's with us in our Randburg studios. Great to see you as always. Good morning. So last year's speech by the MEC was delivered against a backdrop of severe constraints, resource constraints, so to speak. Do you have any reason to believe that things will be any different today?
Well, it is not likely, given that the challenges that we saw last year remain in the province and in the country. Most of it was actually related to COVID-19 relief. Many budgets were reallocated, rejigged to aid and support COVID-19 relief across the province. But what's interesting about the Gauteng budget is that really the provincial budgets across the board are administrative budgets, really, and they're allocations given by the National Treasury, not necessarily from anything that the provinces do to collect money, unlike at a national level or at a municipal level where we collect rates and taxes. So this is money that our state gives to the provinces for administrative purposes, often related to health and education, which is a little confusing sometimes. You would imagine, why are they getting additional money when the money has already been allocated to the various sources? But what government tried to do to relieve some of the pressures and the backlogs, as well as some of the bureaucracy, is for the big things, education and health, provide or give powers to the province to do certain administrative tasks related to that. So we know that Gauteng, for example, what we're covering today, is responsible for education, basic education across the province. And as well as health, some of the hospitals that we have and clinics are administered by the province. Most of the bulk infrastructure improvements projects, those are actually at a municipal level, not so much at a provincial level.
It'll also be interesting to see how much feedback we actually receive when you consider how the allocated money was spent last year and where the money is this year, because that's also been a big talking point, right? It's one thing to allocate the money, whether or not it's well spent is another.
That is always the biggest challenge when it comes to our national budgets and provincial budgets, as well as municipal budgets, is how has the money really been spent? What are people using this money for? And how do we hold our elected representatives accountable for the money that's been spent? You know, a lot of money goes back into the state kitties because it's not spent at the end of the financial year, and what does that mean? So we probably will get an update from the MEC on how their budget was last year, the allocation, how it was spent, and now going forward what they expect.
I think many people would be willing to bet whatever little money we have that something will be said about Charlotte Maxeke Academic Hospital. When you consider just the role that that institution plays, it's certainly one of the beacons in Gauteng. Something ought to be said about money that's being diverted there to try and ensure that it's back at full capacity, hopefully within the next couple of months.
Absolutely. But, you know, again, this is one of those interesting administrative challenges where many of the teaching hospitals actually fall under national administration or jurisdiction, I should say. And so it'll be interesting to see whether they take on the responsibilities or at least allocate a portion of their budget to fixing it, or whether they're going to say, no, national government or the National Department of Health are actually responsible, because Charlotte Maxeke does remain one of the key teaching hospitals in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, a lot of doctors coming out there to say that the fire recently has been a great disruptor. Let's speak about what we know about the passing of this budget. I mean, you know, there have been a lot of concerns initially about coalition governments being a snag in trying to get budgets passed. Is that something we should be worried about as we lead up to this today's address?
Not at all. Not at the provincial level. Again, this is money that's just allocated to them by the National Treasury. So perhaps in the broader budget committees, they've been having conversations about how much each province is allocated and for what. But it doesn't really involve the ordinary citizen in the way that a municipal budget and the heckling that happens at council would that doesn't necessarily happen at the provincial level.
So no fireworks expected today. Kopano Gumbi, thanks very much indeed. Kopano is our business reporter here on Newzroom Afrika.